Yeah. Run it back, nation. What is good? It is I, DJ Eastwood, Run It Back Philly, alongside a good friend of mine, Sixers Greg on Twitter, or Greg Melly on YouTube, whichever, however he's feeling that day. What a day it was today. I was at the pool all day after I did my lunchtime show, but I wasn't really enjoying the pool. I was looking at my phone the entire time because I knew the 5 o'clock deadline was what we were waiting for. They waited until the last possible second. And James Harden shocked the world by taking. Here's the tweet from Woj. Let's get it out the right way. ESPN sources: 76ers star James Harden has declined his $47.3 million option to become a free agent, and will become a free agent. I'm sure that's what it was supposed to say. You know, Woj trying to get these things out is quicker than Shams, so he missed a word right there. He keeps real the possibility of negotiating a new deal that would deliver the Sixers roster building flexibility in free agency, including the use of the full $10.5 million MLE, mid-level exception. Is that what that is? Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to everybody in here. So that's what went down today. The rumors were swirling for a couple of days. People didn't believe me when I said it this morning, but it was like if we're the favorites to land PJ Tucker at $10 million, how the hell could we do that without any cap space? Unless Daryl was gonna swing a Tobias Harris trade, in the last 5 minutes of James Harden having time to sign or not sign. So I was like, the only way it's possible is for James to opt out. So I never thought that he would give up a dime, but at the same time, he's at a point in his career where, like, it's kind of make or break right now. You have a chance to play for a championship. You have a chance to kind of change the narrative or change your reputation in the NBA and show everyone you care about winning more than you care about an extra maybe $7 million or whatever it is. So James Harden did it, leaving the Sixers with enough cap space to sign PJ Tucker and even more cap space to make some other moves. We were just saying a couple weeks ago, we're capped out. We can't do anything. We're screwed. Sell the team. We're done. And James, obviously watching my YouTube show in one of his mansions on a 300-foot television screen, said, "Oh, yeah, DJ Eastwood, watch this." What's up, Greg? How you feeling?
What's up, dude? For the first day in a very long time, slight optimism has returned to my Sixers belief.
Greg's getting pulled back in, man.
Greg's getting pulled back in. Greg's going to get pulled out real quick. But as of now, Greg is in, like, jean shorts. I don't know. I didn't have a joke for that. I'm sorry. But, there's, like I said when we got to Anthony Melton, this is the beginning of a big offseason. There's a lot of moves that are going to be made, whether it's now, whether it's going to be later. I don't know. I would like to expect a Tobias Harris trade within the next 48 hours. I don't know what that is. I don't know what's going to happen with Matisse, but this has been a good start, man. James Harden is a man of the people. He is a man of the people and a man of the strippers. Two things he loves, people and strip clubs. So if all what we see is true about him putting in the work and grinding and seeming to be in much better shape, it's a really good sign for Philadelphia, man. Things are looking up. Twitter's been a lot of fun today. Woj is losing some credibility for missing words. I'll be honest. I'm a fan of grammar. I'm a fan of proper English. If you're not going to put the time in to make a complete sentence, I don't know if I'm going to follow you, Woj.
You know what? And Woj, actually, there was a report earlier today that Woj was behind Shams on by 2 entire minutes.
Wow, what a scumbag! He sucks, dude. 2 minutes. That's 120 seconds.
But somebody then replied and said a Shams tweet said nearing towards, and Woj's tweet said finalizing. So maybe Woj waited that 2 minutes.
You know what? Shams sucks, dude. Woj is so good at his job. It's crazy.
Absolutely. I agree. 223 people in here already. Hit the like button. That would be much, much appreciated. So, did we talk about PJ Tucker and the possibility of signing him and whether or not you hate it? I don't really remember your opinion on that, but I'm still getting just people coming at me left and right. Some people, this is exactly what we need. Some people, this is the worst thing ever. We're getting older. What are we going to do? Have a bunch of 40-year-olds? We suck. How do you feel about PJ Tucker right now?
I love it.
Greg loves it.
You can't overpay for a culture change. It is so impossibly difficult in the landscape of the NBA to create a winning culture. It's what makes the few teams that have one so successful year in and year out. If the Sixers have the ability to create a culture change, you go for it. $10 million for 3 years, $10 million a year, I should say, for $30 million in 3 years is, in the grand scheme of things, a very, very great deal because, first of all, Miami was willing to send him 10.3 a year. And it's not like PJ Tucker's game is predicated on his athleticism. The dude's not an athletic guy to begin with. He's a guy who can age well. He's a guy who's going to shoot the ball consistently at a high level from the corner, from three. And he's going to give you very, very gritty defense and, more importantly, going to bring in a winning culture in the clubhouse. And he's going to be the guy who's going to willing to take a punch for Joel Embiid. I'm here for it, dude. I am a big-time PJ Tucker fan. I think it would be a fantastic acquisition. It seems like it's been a done deal for a couple of days now. My only question to you is, how the hell is this not tampering? Like, what is the difference between what's going on here and how Milwaukee acquired Bogdanovich, but then had to lose a second-round pick and lose money and then lose Bogdanovich? Like, free agency hasn't started yet, and it's been like for the last week, like, oh, PJ Tucker's a Sixer.
I think it'll be like, I think, they kind of, there was years where they didn't care, or, all these things would come out and they were like, well, it's not technically tampering if you're not openly talking to said individual but then it's been like, I remember last year, like, a lot of people got fined for it. Like, they were like trying to crack down on it, right?
Yeah.
So clearly, the 3-year, $30 million offer has been offered to PJ Tucker for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's been out there. I'm here for it, man. I bring him in. I think it's an awesome sign if we make it. But what's even more awesome is the fact that, like, Morey's very determined on not making that his only deal. I mean, kudos to James Harden for taking a pay cut, whether it's $10 million, $11 million, whatever it's expected to be. That's huge, man. Like, Westbrook didn't do that. Like, Harden's not going to see a contract ever again in his entire life that where he would have made as much money as he would have if he opted in. So, I mean, that's a big time mature move on a guy's part who's had a terrible reputation over his entire career about whether or not he's a winning player. So, I mean, if this seems like it's a very, very big step in the right direction for a guy who needs a big step in the right direction when it comes to winning basketball games. I mean, it's huge. And I don't think Harden does this for any other general manager other than Daryl Morey. Like, their love affair is just so crazy. And if Harden comes back at a mid-$30 million contract, it's still a huge number, but it's not 48, and helps us a lot financially. It gives us a lot more flexibility. I would still like to see Tobias Harris traded somewhere for literally anything just to see the money on his contract go away. But this is a really big step in the right direction for the Sixers offseason.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think it gets done if it's not Daryl Morey. Just the fact that he could have a conversation with James Harden on a friendly level, on a look, we have history. I need you to do this for me, but also you're doing it for yourself. We can possibly get to the NBA Finals. We can't do that without any cap space. If we come back with what we had last year, it's not going to happen. Even if you do play like you played in Houston, even if you do play, well, if you play like you played in Houston, it might happen. If you play like you played in Brooklyn, it's still, we need help. So, a guy like Daryl having the history with James that he has with him could talk him into it, or at least put the offer on the table. And James is like, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. And then let's get my guy PJ. And you know what? Let's go get my guy Eric Gordon too. Hey, let's go get Let's go get who's the coach? Well, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Let's go get D'Antoni. Let's go get him too.
At this point, dude, why not? I would be absolutely flabbergasted if we got Eric Gordon, but this opens up, the biannual level exception, which is huge. I didn't even know what that was until this morning. It's crazy what you learn as a Sixers fan when you have.
I still don't even know what it is. Do you mind explaining it to me?
It's $4.5 million or $4.1 million a year. It's not the mid-level exception. It's basically the one right underneath it.
And that's accessible. Why?
Because, dude, I want to lie to you and tell you that I know math and numbers and equations, but I'll leave that up to the nerds in the front offices. Basically, it's basically because Harden's taking less money and they can figure out a way to hit these level exceptions without going over the hard cap, which is just insane to me. These are the days where I'm like, this is exactly why all these Twitter warriors can never be general managers. Like, it's so much deeper than what we think it is.
Yeah.
Like the moves that these guys are making like a year in advance is just, it's wild. It's wild what Morey does.
So the $10.5 million exception plus $4.1 million biannual exception. So it opened up $15 million almost?
Yeah,
just in exceptions, not even counting the money that he took less that might get us under the cap.
Well, we're definitely not going to go under the cap. Like we're probably going to hard cap out at some point. Like we're going to be in the luxury tax regardless, most likely. But yes, if what I've gathered today is correct, basically we can acquire 2 more players, one at the mid-level exception, which is huge. Like $10 million is a lot of money for a guy. And then lower, like less than $5 million a year for another guy, which is equally as huge. Meanwhile, we also brought in D'Anthony Melton, who's making $8 million this season. So, I mean, this has been a successful offseason so far, I would say.
I would say so, too. And maybe Romp will come around and be a Daryl Morey fan by the end of this. But
slowly but surely,
I think,
the Sixers need to win the margins. We've always lost the margins every single offseason. Even when we bring in other top talent, we lose the margins. And D'Anthony Melton is a very, very big marginal win. PJ Tucker would be a very big marginal win. Like, Sixers fans have grown accustomed to getting the big name, but this offseason cannot be the offseason where we go out and try and get a big name. Like, it has to be win the margins. And so far the Sixers have seemed to care about the margins for the first time in my lifetime, more so than star talent, which is very, very important right now for this team.
Yeah, I think people were a little nervous with Daryl Morey because he's always been a big name guy, and they thought he was gonna once again go all in and try to splash something that was maybe unattainable in the offseason and come away with nothing. So the fact that he worked a way to clear this cap space and hasn't done anything crazy yet is a good sign. And I also maybe he would do something crazy if he could. I don't think it's possible anyway for him to do something crazy because your trade pieces are hard to trade. So it's like we freed up this cap space, and then you're still looking at all of the Matisse Thybulle rumors and the Tobias Harris rumors. So you could add these players that are the ones you just named, or others that fit the money with the free with the exception money and things like that. But we also can still make moves with Matisse Thybulle and Tobias Harris because I think he's trying to do all of that at the same time also. And if he gets this done, signs PJ, signs another player with the freedom of another exception, and then makes more moves with trades, this could be the biggest Sixers offseason I've seen in a long, long time.
And what's crazy, the craziest part about it is the fact that, like, going into this offseason, the Sixers' financial situation was looked at as impossible to manage. Like, we had everything coming back next year. We had a lot of immovable contracts. We just didn't have flexibility, and Harden really saved us for doing this if he, goes through with it. I'm a type of guy who refuses to believe something when it comes to the Sixers until it actually happens. But Even I've seen what Nemanja Bjelica was like. Yeah, I'm gonna be on the Sixers, and then like 2 days later he signs with the Kings.
But I do remember that he backed out on us.
Yeah, until I see something solidified, I'll be skeptical. But the fact that Harden can do this, it just opens up so much flexibility, and it goes to show how bad he wants to win right now and wants to win in Philadelphia specifically. And it allows Morey to do what we brought him in to do, and that is to make the moves that seem to be impossible to make, and it's huge. It's so huge. I think it's great. I'm sure we're going to get into it, but there are a lot of guys who I'm interested in coming into Philadelphia, whether any of them do or not. That's up to the front office, but there's a lot right now where I think the Sixers can continue to improve, meanwhile keeping on to their biggest pieces, which is the most important part.
Yeah, look, I want everyone to really think about this. This is the difference between when an ownership group, fires a guy and puts a guy with no coaching experience or resume and probably shouldn't have had a coaching extension in the interim GM position with all of those assets, and then promotes a guy who had never managed an NBA team before, also in Elton Brand. I'm talking about Brett Brown and Elton Brand. This is the difference between ownership doing random things like that, promoting guys that should not be being put in these positions, and hiring someone who has proven before that he can get things done. Whether it delivers a championship is still to be seen, but he got the Rockets to Game 7 against the Warriors. I mean, he did things, flipping the Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming things back then that they thought was impossible. He flipped that, turned that into James Harden for 10 years, and Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook, and on and on and on. So, yeah, and he comes in here, flips the Al Horford thing, flips Josh Richardson for Seth Curry, good Lord. Somehow escapes the Ben Simmons situation without giving up a ton. And Daryl's just been – it's just clear to me what an experienced GM who's known for making moves and known for getting things done looks like versus what we were working with in the dark years. Elton Brand came in here, and I don't know if it was him or if it was owners playing 2K with billions of dollars, but they just kind of, let's trade for this guy, and this guy. Let's stuff, Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, and all these guys and we have no plan for the future, and we're going to give up 2 first-round picks and Landry Shamet for Tobias, and then sign him to $180 million. Like, it was a disaster. Every move was a disaster. Daryl came in here, and it looks like he's at least undoing a lot of the mess that was made.
Yeah, I mean, he did it almost immediately, too. Like, I have been a monster Daryl Morey supporter from the moment he came in. I have never gotten off my Daryl Morey ship, despite how Harden turned out to be in Philadelphia and what else we could have gotten for him. Like, I maybe don't love what he did with it, but I loved how he did it. And by that, I mean, I love that he stood pat on his Ben Simmons belief. He didn't fold when I think a lot of GMs would have folded. Like, Elton Brand would have traded Ben the moment Ben was like, I don't want to be here, I want to go to California. He would have traded him for a bad package. Like, that's just how it would have happened. But Morey wanted his guy, and he got his guy. And there's so much props to a guy like that, despite maybe it not being the right guy. It's still him getting what he wanted is impressive. And I think Morey's trade with Horford was magical. I think it was awesome, despite Al Horford playing well for Boston. Like, we all remember what it was like with him in Philadelphia. And Danny Green came in and gave us 2 really good seasons. Then just to flip Danny Green in a first-round pick for DeAnthony Melton, a guy who's 24 years old. I mean, that's really impressive. It's really, really impressive. Then Morey goes out beforehand, the year before, and drafts Tyrese Maxey, Paul Reed, and Charles Bassey, and Isaiah Joe, all 4 guys who are, I mean, I would say at least 2 of them, maybe 3 of them, including Isaiah Joe, to be rotational guys this year. It's really, really impressive. Like, Morey has had a very good tenure here. I know it's very hard to see that sometimes because the result hasn't been what we wanted, but Morey's put us in a good position, especially given the other GMs we've had here and other guys we've had here making decisions. They've been chickens without heads on. And at least Morey has a direction that he wants to take. Whether or not it's the right direction, we will see, but at least he has motive and a direction.
I'll tell you what, I'm feeling right now like I'm going to feel better about this upcoming season than I've felt in a long time. I feel like we're gonna be well equipped. The whole Ben Simmons era to me was like, I'm gonna talk myself into this again and see if maybe he's not a fraud. But in reality, you kind of had a weird feeling about it all the time because he's just such a weird player and a weird fit, and never came up in big moments in his entire life playing basketball so far. So this. There's still question marks. Will James come back and look better than he did? Can Maxey take another step forward in year 3? Can Joel Embiid stay healthy? But last season, even getting to the second round after kind of decimating our bench with the Ben trade, giving away Seth and Drummond, and I think I'm going to feel better about this upcoming season than I have in recent years. A couple super chats here. RXP Nasty, thanks for the support. Cheap Wing, Josh Jackson, Eric Pascal, Daniel House. I looked at Josh Jackson in a little bit of a light on a free agent show that I did, and he's not really looking at any NBA offers right now. He's probably going to sign for a minimum actually, which is crazy because he was such a high draft pick and there was a tank for Josh Jackson era that I remember. And he just but still an athletic wing that can contribute and maybe on a vet minimum. I wouldn't hate that. Aaron Cabbage, thanks for the support. Even if we don't end up trading Tobias, underrate the hell out of that dude. Is he massively overpaid? Sure, but is he really a good starting power forward? Yeah, not an all-star, but he's not Matisse Thybulle. Toby can't play. I agree, Aaron. I always say it's not. I'm never saying Tobias Harris is awful. The problem is that we kind of ended up relying on him sometimes. Like, come on, I need you to step up. But we all just kind of had to learn to live with the fact that Tobias is paid like a superstar and he's not one, and he's not going to put a team on his back and carry you anywhere. He's just going to give you his 16 to 21 points. And, he's a role player, probably the most overpaid role player in the history of role players, but he's there. If you can't trade him because the contract is that undesirable, then you still have Tobias Harris, who's still a good player to have on your team. It'd be nice to move the contract, but, it's not like he's absolutely atrocious. I think the idea is for him to be a third option on this, or a fourth option on this team, really. You
want my hot take about Tobias Harris?
Hot take.
Despite all of my new optimism on this team, the Sixers will fail in the second round as long as Tobias Harris is still on this team. We will never succeed with him here. Never.
Why?
Never. If he is here, I would be the level of surprised I would be if we had him going into the playoffs next year. I can't even put it into words. I would be absolutely shocked to see him in a Sixers jersey come playoff time.
But, you don't have to rely on Tobias Harris, though.
That's the problem is he wants to be relied on. He is the reason why Tyrese Maxey may not make to take that next step next year. He is the reason why this Sixers offense is so stagnant sometimes. It's not that he's not good. It's that he wants to be the guy. He thinks he's better than he is, and even playoff Toby, which was the best version I've ever seen of him. Like, if he doesn't do what we saw in a 4-game sample size all year next year, we're screwed. Like, it's just so simple. Like, he's a good basketball player. He'll give you 16 to 20 on any given night, but him posting up, doing his stupid isolation 1-move fadeaway post up shots without getting to the free throw line, him and his inability to catch and shoot and just take 7 seconds off every shot clock, it's going to kill us as it kills us every single season. And he's too big of an ego to come off the bench, and it will not work out. The Sixers have to trade him before the season starts. I don't care what it's for. I would primarily want Harrison Barnes, of course, because it's literally Tobias Harris, but way better and more understanding of what to expect here. Harrison Barnes, you don't see Harrison Barnes walking around teams like, yo, I'm the second best player on this team when there's Tyrese Maxey and James Harden. Toby just has no awareness of basketball and how good he actually is. The man, I think I can count on one hand how many free throws he's shot in the last 2 years. He's the worst.
Yeah, he's not an aggressive. He's not a physical player, which is why he doesn't get to the free throw line. You can always gauge somebody's physicality and aggression and things like that based off of how often they get to the free throw line. Nikola Jokic. But yeah, Tobias is just he's soft. He is, and it's his mindset. It's the way that he plays. Again, I've said it before. I'll say it again. Like for a couple years, I'm tired of watching the players show up to the arena and a bunch of dudes with their nice little Gucci pants rolled up and their loafers and their Louis Vuitton little man purses and trotting to the arena looking like it's a damn runway show. Give me the guy with the neck tats and the black Air Forces. We need one of those guys, damn it. PJ Tucker is one of those guys. I don't know about
Melton's that guy too, man.
PJ's got a shoe collection though. I don't know if he rocks black Air Forces, but
DeAnthony Melton is a guy that Sixers fans are going to fall in love with once they realize who he is. Like I said the same thing about Niang last year, and I was right. But DeAnthony Melton is a 24-year-old freak athlete who just plays 100% of the time, all the time. He may not be the best player on the court, but he's not like another guy that's getting paid $40 million for this team who thinks he's the best player on the court. Melton stays in his lane, and he is absolutely explosive. He's a great off-ball defender, one of the best in the NBA. He is among the best shot-blocking guards in the league. He's 98th percentile. He's a great on-ball defender. He's going to be a guy who the Sixers fans are going to love because he's the dude who's going to be diving all over the court.
Absolutely. The only thing I needed to see when I looked up his per 36 was 7.1 rebounds per 36 for a 6'2" guard. 7.1 rebounds per 36 for a 6'2" guard. That just tells me he flies to the ball. He out-hustles everybody. That's the same as PJ Tucker tying Joel Embiid with 4 offensive rebounds in Game 6 at 6'5", because he everybody else kind of, maybe I'll go over there, and he's already there. You can't. He's that guy at the court that you're like, bro, chill out, man. We're just playing pickup. Calm down.
Milton cares a lot. And the biggest knock on him in college was the fact that he could not shoot for shit at USC. Like, he was absolutely horrendous as a scorer at college, and that was the big thing that helped, halted him from being a higher draft pick. But the number one thing he's worked on in the NBA, clear as day, has been his three-point shooting, in which it was at 38% last year. I mean, he's a guy who really, really cares about getting better, and that's just something, like, you can't have too many of those guys. And I think bringing in DeAnthony Melton and especially PJ Tucker, like, those are culture change moves. And that's what I've been dying for the last 3 years now. Like, we need culture change guys. Ever since we lost Jimmy Butler, we have been soft. And PJ Tucker and DeAnthony Melton are the furthest thing from soft. And I'm super excited to watch this team play a different brand of basketball than it has over the past couple of seasons.
Couldn't agree more. Harshawn Hathi, thank you for the super chat. We need to get Daniel House. He's a perfect fit. I don't know anything about Daniel House. I haven't seen Daniel House in years. I feel like, am I thinking of an older player? Eddie House, I'm thinking of.
Yeah, you're thinking of Eddie, the former Knick, number 55. Weird that I know that, but it's
played for the Heat a lot, right?
Yeah, Eddie House played on the Heat. He played for everyone towards the end of his career. Daniel House was the dude on the Rockets. He spells his name Danuel. He played with Harden before Harden left. He was a guy who went undrafted, worked really hard, came into the league a little bit older, if I'm not mistaken, and he turned into a pretty solid 3-and-D player. I think he was still on Houston last year, but who knows with Houston. I was not watching Rockets games nightly.
Exactly. I wasn't either. So the Tobias Harris thing, you say you want Tobias gone just for anything. I don't think Daryl Morey is going to do that. That's kind of the issue with that. I think he's going to try to get something, and if he can't get anything, he's not going to trade him. Or do you think Daryl's kind of like, nah, we gotta get rid of this guy?
It's a little bit of both. I think he looks at it like the Horford situation, where the fit is just, it's bad. Like, and it's not his guy either. Like, this is not a guy that Morey got in Philadelphia. Like, Elton Brand was one thing. I would see Elton Brand wanting to be a little bit more hesitant with trading him, because you're admitting you're wrong. You know, when a GM trades big for a guy and the guy doesn't work out, and then you have to trade him, like, that's hard sometimes for these GMs who are making millions of dollars to have their ego put aside and be like, you know what, I messed up. This isn't the dude. Now I have to get rid of him. It's not Morey's guy, but at the same time, I think he's going to hold put, because that's what Daryl Morey does. Like, Daryl Morey will never lose a trade on face value. Like he won't do it. He will not lose a trade the moment it happens. Like nobody was like, Philly really lost this trade with Brooklyn. There were people who were like Brooklyn won the trade, but no one was like, wow, like Philly just got fleeced. And it turned out like maybe it was a lose-lose for both teams, but Morey got what he wanted. And I think Morey, a part of him really wants Tobias gone because he realizes how important it is for the future of this franchise. But at the same time, like I think he realizes Harris is a much better player than Horford was. Like he can do more than just Danny Green and a second-round pick. Like there's more to come. And I think there are teams interested like Sacramento, I'm sure we'll get into. And whether it was, what was it, Dallas that was interested? I don't think it was Dallas.
Yeah. Was it Dallas and Sacramento?
Yeah.
Or no, that was Matisse Thybulle. That was Matisse Thybulle to Dallas.
That was Matisse. I know Sacramento came out this morning. I saw that said they're interested in Tobias. I don't know if that's true or not because who the hell knows anymore? Maybe that's Philadelphia propaganda, but I just like I don't care what comes in return.
So that's how bad it is. First of all, Sacramento showing interest in Tobias Harris. What are they trying to do? Besides overpay a bunch of players. I mean, first of all, this fit. Think of this. Domantas Sabonis and Tobias Harris on the court together, I want no parts of. And De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis, and Tobias Harris, where's that getting you?
They don't have direction. That's what the Sixers have been like. That's what the Sixers have been over the past 5 years. Like we don't know what's good. We don't know what's going to work. And for some reason, they just continue to just shoot in a dark room and hope they hit something. Like it doesn't. But they want to win now. They have to win now in order to keep Sabonis because Sabonis only has a year or two left now. Like they traded a guy they could have had for 8 years easily in Halliburton for a guy to just make the playoffs. Like I think it's a Tobias Harris trade. Sacramento works for both teams, which is so wild to say because Sacramento wants to win now and they probably view Harris as a better player than Harrison Barnes. And the Sixers need a better fit because we don't need any more superstar guys. And Barnes is just a far better fit in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a better rebounder, he's a better hustle guy, and he's a better three-point shooter, and he shoots more threes per game, and he's cheaper. He does everything you want,
right?
Everything you would kind of want Tobias Harris in that role to do at less money. The Kings, it's funny to me, but I guess, if their reputation stands that they don't actually know what's going on, maybe they look at Tobias Harris and say, hey, max contract player from Philly. He averaged 20 points a game way back when he was in L.A., I think, or Detroit. He's experienced. He has playoff experience. Yeah, let's do it. Let's bring him in here.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and Harris is probably a better shot creator than Harrison Barnes is, and I don't know, dude. Sacramento makes no sense because even then, like they just drafted Keegan Murphy, who would play the 4 position. I just don't understand.
Well, they're in win now mode. They're in win now. They're in win now mode, so they're not going to play a rookie. They're in win now mode.
I know, but you literally just had the 4th pick in the draft for a reason, guys. Like, just relax, trade everything, bring back Halliburton, and just build around that. Sacramento is the most dysfunctional franchise I've ever seen. So, like, I'm not going to be like, oh, Sacramento would never do that because they probably would. But who knows, man.
All right, so do you want to go down what you think the Sixers' possibilities are for after P.J. Tucker? Because, the people are letting us know that DeAnthony Melton and P.J. Tucker are not putting you over the top, even though I believe none of this matters without a healthy Joel Embiid. None of this matters if James Harden comes back and looks the way that he did. So I do think healthy Joel Embiid, James Harden looks like he looked in Brooklyn, Tyrese Maxey takes another step forward in year 3, plus you get a 6th man off the bench in DeAnthony Melton, a young hustle guy that can shoot threes and play a little bit of defense for his size, and then you get the P.J. Tucker, the dog, the guy that's going to out-hustle everybody on the court. I think that could get you to the NBA Finals. I mean, who are we to say that it can't? Like, I don't think anybody said the Boston Celtics were going to the finals last season. So, I don't get down with all the crystal ball. This is impossible. This is not going anywhere. We're 2nd-round exit again. But if there's options to make more moves, Daryl's going to make more moves. So what do you think the possibilities are with the money that would be available?
You never know with Daryl. Like, I'm not pleased. I can't see the chat when we do this, but which is funny. It's probably safer for my mental health, but I'm not saying go out and get this guy because I simply do not want him in Philadelphia, but it would just not surprise me if Morey somehow shocked the world and went out and got Bradley Beal or went out and got another superstar. I just like, that's what he does, dude. And like, I don't want him, but I wouldn't be surprised. But also more realistically, what I think Morey and the Sixers are going to do is continue to try and win the margins and take a different approach this offseason, as they damn well should. And one guy in specifically that I think could really help with that is Lonnie Walker from San Antonio. I think Lonnie Walker would be an awesome acquisition. He did not shoot well from three last year, but he's a guy who I, for some reason, just trust way more offensively, especially with the ball in his hands, than I would Matisse Thybulle. Him and Melton would immediately fill in that Matisse Thybulle role, and Matisse would be the definition of expendable. He would not be here anymore. Lonnie is a guy who jumps out of the gym. He is from Philadelphia, and I just think it would be a really cool addition to the team. I also saw earlier today that one of my favorite players in the NBA, Lou Dort, his team option was declined.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if that means Oklahoma City is planning on re-signing him to a longer-term deal, but if there is any way to acquire Lou Dort, you do that, because he is the real deal. He is a top 5 defender in the NBA, a top 5 true defender in the NBA, not like Matisse Thybulle's fake stats. And he is a guy who has shown ridiculous flashes on the offensive side. Like Lou Dort, you go out and get Lou Dort 100 times out of 10.
Yeah, I would assume that they are just working on a 3 or 4 year contract or something like that with Lou Dort. That would be for me, for a rebuilding team that's just stacking draft picks and things like that. You can't give up on a 23-year-old that's already showing the signs that Lou Dort is showing. They have to value him as almost a max player because his potential is so high. So I would be shocked if that ends up in him actually becoming a free agent, not just signing another contract, especially with the fact that it was a team option. If it was he declined his player option, you'd be like, oh, shit, something might be going down. But, yeah, I would expect them to get him under contract.
Right. What I am probably expecting is Oklahoma City giving him like a 4-year, $65, $70 million contract in expectation that he's going to become a player worth more than that over the next 4 seasons, so they can have him on what would be considered a bargain of a deal. That's a very Sam Presti move. It's very smart if they would do that. I'm here for that, just to avoid a big max contract. I mean, it's like the Jaylen Brown deal. They re-signed Jaylen Brown in Boston to a deal that now you would look at and be like, he's probably a max guy.
Yeah.
But another guy I think that would be awesome in Philadelphia is Cody Martin. I think Cody Martin would be a sweet pickup. He's a dude who's going to hit around 40% from three. He had some fantastic games last year. Him or his brother Caleb. I'll take either one of them. Half the time I can't even tell them apart.
Caleb was in Charlotte, or the other way around?
I think it's the other way. If I'm not mistaken, I think Cody was in Charlotte. No, now I'm confused.
They're identical twins too, aren't they?
Exactly the same.
Either way, I agree.
This is going to bother me. Cody was in Charlotte. Caleb was in Miami. So Cody's the dude who I think is going to be available. I would love to get Cody Martin. He is a dude who shot 38% from three last year, which is above league average. And he's also just a guy who's defensively going to be good enough to be able to have out there when you need him to be out there. I love Cody. I love him. And I love his brother. I'll take either one of them.
Facts. I'm just so excited for it. It seems like the Sixers are moving towards having actual basketball players in their role positions. Like I've seen so many teams over the years that always have these guys, these Markieff Morris guys, these whoever, DiVincenzo, whoever. Everybody always has guys, and we're like, we got G League Shake Milton, man. Like yeah, it's nice, but is it real? We got, is Furkan Korkmaz really an NBA level role player? Like, I just feel like we're finally possibly going to end up with NBA level role players on this squad, and that excites me.
Yeah, I mean, it's been tough over the past couple of seasons because we've put all of our money into three guys, but
true.
It's proud.
How did you feel about the Spurs actually dealing DeJounte Murray?
I think it's a great trade for both teams. I mean, if you look at it, which is so wild, the Spurs received more for DeJounte Murray than they did Kawhi Leonard. And I know it's a different time. Like the way the NBA's changed over the span of the 6 years when he got traded, which is crazy. It's different, but they received a lot in return. I'm surprised they traded him to begin with. Like I really just guessed San Antonio's like, we're going full rebuild now, which is strange that they were mediocre for the last 3 seasons. Why didn't they do this 3 years ago? But Atlanta, on the other end, traded a lot, but they got a guy who, on paper, in theory, is probably one of the best fits you could have alongside Trae Young. Its success in Atlanta is going to be 100,000% dependent on whether or not Trae Young decides that he wants to care to play off ball. Because in Trae Young's career, he has been a guy who's going to have his hands on his knees at the logo if he doesn't have the ball in his hands, and it's going to kill your team. But in reality, if he can kind of adapt the Steph Curry constant running around off ball motion type of catch and shoot guy when he doesn't have the ball in his hands, the Atlanta Hawks could be really, really good. Like really, really, really good. DeJounte Murray is a stud, dude. He's one of the best rebounders at his position. He's one of the best passers in the entire NBA. He's a top 5 passer to me. And that's just not numbers. That's just overall passing in traffic, his facilitating ability. I mean, he is phenomenal, but it's going to come down to whether or not Trae Young gives a shit when he doesn't have the ball in his hands.
That's the thing. I pictured DeJounte Murray as more of the half-court floor general kind of pick-and-roll facilitator guy, and Trae Young more of a scorer. So you think Trae Young would have to take more of a shooting guard kind of role in Atlanta's offense?
Offensively, 100%. But defensively, DeJounte is going to make up for so many of the errors that Trae Young will constantly make. I mean, Trae Young is one of the worst defenders that that may have ever been playing in the NBA. Like, he's one of the worst defenders.
Isaiah Thomas?
Yeah.
Number 2 to Isaiah Thomas?
Yeah, Isaiah is probably number 1, but Trae Young is a close 2. Like, and that's not good company to be in when the dude worse than you is 5'7". Trae Young is just so bad defensively, but DeJounte is an all-NBA defender 2 years ago. So it's a really, really good fit if it works out. Now it just comes down to like, there's no way Atlanta's done, right? I mean, they have so many guys now. I would imagine Bogdanovich might be on the way out. John Collins might be on the way out. There's a lot going on. Trading Gallinari is a really good move too. I was a fan of that.
People are throwing Dante DiVincenzo's name out in the chat all day. The Sacramento Kings declined to offer DiVincenzo a qualifying offer, which will make him an unrestricted free agent. There will be significant interest in DiVincenzo on the open market. So why would they do that? Did he not have he was a restricted free agent, right? And they didn't try to work a sign and trade or something? They were just like, nah.
I don't think Sacramento knows what a sign and trade is.
He clearly has value, and they're just like, nah, go ahead. We're good.
Yeah, have him.
Wow.
DiVincenzo is a guy who, I mean, he's a Philly kid. He went to Villanova.
Yes.
It would be awesome. I would like it, but there's something about him I don't like. I don't know. He's not a great 3-point shooter, for one. Last year he only shot 33% from 3, and maybe that's just a down season, but he's only he hovers a little bit under 35% from his career. And I just don't know. I don't know. I don't really love it for some reason. I would rather take a risk on Lonnie Walker than I would DiVincenzo. DiVincenzo's a really good defender, which is also crazy that I'm older than him. I feel like he's been in the NBA for like 6 years now. But you know what? Whatever.
Exactly. What else we got? I'm just scrolling down the Woj timeline here because I couldn't keep up with. I couldn't keep up with today. With I was like, I got to try to piece together every player that became a free agent or didn't become, and I just didn't have time to throw it all together, to be honest with you.
Another guy I have is Otto Porter. I think Otto Porter would be a really interesting get because he's not going to come back to what do you call it? Golden State. Maybe there's a way that we could get him on a lower, the biannual contract. He's a career 39.8% 3-point shooter. He shot 37% from 3 last year. He's a great free throw shooter, which is huge. He shoots just under 50% from the field in total. Like, he's a guy who's just I think he's just a very consistent stretch four, which the Sixers haven't had really. Like we really haven't had an athletic stretch four. Facts. And I know Porter's a guy who is definitely going to be good enough, I think, to be a backup four on that type of contract. I think it's pretty good value if the Sixers went out and got him.
Can't disagree with that at all. There was another one that I missed on the Woj timeline here. Bobby Portis declined his $4.6 million option to become a free agent. The Milwaukee Bucks. So is Bobby Portis on his way out of Milwaukee?
No shot. That dude dies for that city. He's going to be back. They'll sign him to an extension.
He was a big part of those championship runs. Milwaukee, man, perfect off the bench role player, big shots in big moments. The Sacramento Kings exercised the option for center Chamizi Metu.
Dude, he's kind of nice.
Yeah?
Yeah. Metu's kind of nice.
All right, so you don't think Tobias Harris is going to be back here next season. You think that's Daryl Morey's next move?
I think it has to be. Like I think Tobias Harris is 100% gone by the end of the trade deadline. So I don't know if it's this offseason or the trade deadline in the season, but I would bet all the money in the world he's not going to be a Sixer come playoff time.
I wouldn't want to start the season with I don't like starting a season with a guy that you plan on trading. That sucks to me because I feel like you're wasting a bunch of time. That's what we did, with the first half of the season. It's not that Ben was on the floor, but I would have liked for him to just be traded in the offseason versus go that whole 3/4 of a season with this big question mark thing going on.
I agree, but it's very different here. Like the Ben Simmons thing is one thing. Like I obviously we know how historic that's probably going to end up being, and that could even itself lead to a lockout one day in the NBA, like Ben Simmons specifically. But I understand wanting to build chemistry early on from a season, but like the trade deadline is very good to trade dudes who are fourth options. And Tobias Harris is not good enough, should not be vital enough or is important enough to this team where we're like, holy shit, what are we going to do? We have to figure out how to play basketball all over again without this guy. Like, if anything, trading him should just make basketball easier for the rest of the team. Like, he's not good enough to not trade. Like, we need to get rid of him. It's so bad.
And I never thought it was a good fit. Besides Joel Embiid either. I always thought, well, first we tried to play him at small forward for so long, and he's too slow to play small forward, and then he's not, he's not a stretch four enough guy to really play power forward, at least alongside Joel Embiid. So I was never a big fan of the fit anyway.
Yeah, I liked it originally. I thought it was a good move. I was a huge fan of the trade. I remember it went down at like 2 a.m. I was like, let's freaking go. This is a big time pickup. But it quickly became very obvious that he's a tweener. He doesn't really have a position. Like, he's not, like you said, he's not fast enough to play the small forward position, but he's not big enough and physical enough to play the four. And so he's kind of just in this awkward position of like, I don't know what he is. And it doesn't fit in Philadelphia because the Sixers are so solidified everywhere that we need guys to understand their roles. And the moment we have a big time contract that we've invested a lot into and a guy that just doesn't get it, he just doesn't get it. It killed Philadelphia.
Yeah. Facts. So I guess the last thing we'll talk about is Matisse Thybulle, because Tobias and Matisse have both been, basically put at the front of the shop for the Philadelphia 76ers. I don't think the organization is trying to hide it at this point. Hey, these guys are available. What do you think about Thybulle? That was the one that came out today that Dallas was one of the teams and the Trailblazers was one of the teams.
I have no idea what the Blazers would trade. I cooked up a deal, including Josh Hart. I put it on my Twitter. But, like, I'm thinking about it, and there's no way. There's no way, like, the Blazers want to compete right now.
Yeah.
And it's obvious to every general manager, to anyone who's seen 5 games of the Blazers and Sixers, that Josh Hart is just a better player than Matisse Thybulle. And then you go further down the Blazers, like, I just don't know what the Sixers would even want in return.
But this is where this is where your analytics department could kill you, because they could be sitting there looking at your advanced adjusted box plus minus defensive rating and say, we need Matisse Thybulle.
I guess. I really guess. It's just it's disgusting. Like, I don't know what I'm trying to find the Blazers roster right now so I can even pretend to cook something up. But
there's one of my guy Ryan Bordeaux of A2D sent me was Nasir Little and a first round pick for Matisse Thybulle.
Yeah, I'll do it. That's probably an overpay for Matisse, but I would do it. Nasir's a guy who probably has enough in the tank to show that he's probably a pretty good player.
6'5" power forward. That's like a PJ Tucker, isn't it?
North Carolina. Maybe like I don't know, dude. Like Justice Winslow, maybe. Maybe like they don't want Eric Bledsoe because it wouldn't make any sense to have him there. Maybe Ben McLemore. I don't even know if he's still on the team. It's disgusting. I have no idea what we would get out of that. But Matisse doesn't really have much trade value, probably. So I would like to see him gone, but I wouldn't like to see him gone for nothing. Like we might as well just keep the guy if he's not. Like, he's good enough to play for 3 minutes a game in an important part where we need team defense. Where I'm just like, you know what, like whatever. We'll hold on to him, see if his trade value goes up. I would be surprised if we traded him. In general.
Matisse, you'd be surprised if we traded Matisse in general.
Yeah, I would definitely be surprised unless there's something bigger that Morey's planning and he is a throw-in as added value. I would be surprised to see him traded straight up. Yeah, that would be very surprising.
Jay North Philly Black, if Eastwood's only good for Ben Simmons slander, because I'm noticing your basketball knowledge is from a fan perspective, but talk as a matter of fact, but you be way off since Ben left.
Damn, eat those words.
Jay, if you want to come back and maybe, I don't know, type that out so I can fucking read it.
Translate
then,
it. What about Reggie Bullock? What about
man.
Matisse to Dallas for Reggie Bullock?
Yeah, that's the one I have here. Matisse and Furkan Korkmaz for Reggie Bullock.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, if you can unload Furkan and Matisse, and Dallas buys it as they're getting a defensive all NBA defense Matisse Thybulle that's going to improve their chances somehow, some way, and you can get Reggie Bullock out of it. Yeah, I wouldn't say no to that either. I would
hear me out, but that's probably a very realistic trade.
Yeah.
Like, Bullock's not really going to see a ton of minutes. He's also making $9.5 million, where Matisse is making way less. Still has, his rookie scale deal. Furkan's a guy who is just another shooter. Maybe he has a bounce back year that could turn out to be a good trade for Dallas. They've struggled defending anything on the perimeter for the last couple of seasons. I think that would be a good trade for both teams. Bullock just would be able to give us catch and shoot Marco Bellinelli type vibes,
Facts. I like that. When you throw the name Bellinelli out there, I like that, man.
Say it like that.
That was such a team of just, let's put all the shooters around Ben Simmons we can and shoot as many threes as we can, and it worked for a little while. It was nice. It was fun to watch, but
it was pretty successful.
It was. All right, Greg. So I guess before we hop up out of here, you got to tell me: are you back in? Are you a believer again in the Philadelphia 76ers franchise that they will, in the next couple of years, do something they haven't done in 41 years, which is win an NBA championship, or do something they haven't done in 22 years, which is make it to the NBA Finals? Are you back in and believing?
I am almost back in believing, but until we trade one of Doc Rivers or Tobias Harris, I am going to stay to the second round exit vibes the Sixers have been giving me over the last 20-something years. It sucks, but I don't see the Sixers being successful with Doc, and I just don't see us being successful with Tobias. Maybe we could do better without one, but if we have both of them, as we do right now, we're going to go right back to the same problems we've always had.
So,
but this is a really good start. Like, this is a really good. I think if anything, my optimism is 100% back on watching a more exciting and enjoyable team. Like, this team's going to be more enjoyable with PJ Tucker and DeAnthony Melton. Like, I'm really excited for DeAnthony Melton.
But in the end, Doc Rivers will still be the detriment to this team until he's fired.
Yeah, and Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris trumps Doc. I'd rather get rid of Tobias than Doc, but yes.
I didn't know you were so out on Tobias Harris. That's funny.
Oh man, dude,
I'm not saying you should be in on Tobias Harris, but I just didn't know that. It's just funny to me.
Yeah, he's the worst. He's bad. he's really bad in Philly. Literally, I would get rid of him for anything.
You know what? I think all of these offseason moves and this offseason drama actually made me forget about the fact that Doc Rivers is coaching this team. So, yeah, it excites me. All of these additions excite me, but the Doc Rivers doing the right thing is something that's just if he just wouldn't have won that championship in 2008 with 4 Hall of Famers, he wouldn't be here. He wouldn't be anybody. Nobody would be putting him on any type of list. He wouldn't be on this self-righteous I'm Greg Popovich level. It's ridiculous. He's done so many worse things throughout his career than he's done good. Oh my goodness, we have Doc
the good
Rivers.
Side of it though is at least we're bringing in dudes who are NBA guys, who are players who've played in the NBA for long enough where Doc's like, all right, maybe I'll trust this kid.
All right, yeah. So Daryl has to control Doc Rivers via the roster. So you can't give him DeAndre Jordan and Paul Millsap. You can't give him those guys. You have to say, these are your guys. Paul Reed is your backup center. Charles Bassey is your backup center. That's your options. Play one of them. And Doc would probably be like, all right, fine, then I'm just playing Joel for 48 straight minutes because I'm not doing that. But I think you have to play the opposite game with Doc Rivers to force him to do the right thing.
That's exactly what Morey's doing, though. Morey said he's not going to go out and spend on another backup center. That's him saying, hey, Doc, do your shit and play Paul Reed or Charles Bassey. Play these guys. I got you them for a reason. And he also said, Morey, that he wants and expects Isaiah Joe to see the court more this season. That's big, man. This is what we've been asking for how long now. Right. And I think if you trap Doc Rivers in a corner long enough, maybe he'll stumble upon talent and then be like, holy shit, I just developed this kid myself because he's unaware of how any of it works. I mean, that's what happened with Maxey. The only reason Maxey is where he's at because Ben was like, yeah, I'm done playing basketball.
That's the thing that I think it annoys me that Daryl Morey didn't hire Doc Rivers, and then Daryl goes out and drafts players that he thinks can help the team, and Doc's like, nah, we're not doing that. And you think Daryl's sitting back like, dude, what the play the guys that I drafted. What's going on here? There has to be conversations there where he's like, listen, bro, if you're not going to play him, then, this is your last chance or something like that. I don't know. But his hands tied because Josh Harris gave Doc Rivers a 5-year contract. So who really has the say?
Yeah, it's all politics. It's weird. It's like any job anywhere. You're like, how does this dude still have this job? He hasn't been good at what he does ever in my time here. But for some reason, he's still getting these hours and he's still working. Yeah. That's Doc Rivers in Philadelphia. He served one good table back in 2008, and they're like, oh, he's the best server around. I don't know, dude.
The ultimate, he's written into stone. Nobody can have his shifts, and now he's being rude to customers and pissing people off and getting 1-star reviews, and everybody hates him.
And the restaurant's dying because of it, but the restaurant refuses to acknowledge the fact that its server sucks because he won an award from the New York Times 12 years ago.
Perfect analogy.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's not bad. It's what we're here for.
All right, well, go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, there's going to be a lot to happen over the next couple of days. I'm sure we'll do a podcast. I'm sure we'll talk about it. But optimism is growing. It's been a good day in Philadelphia. Win the margins. That's the motto this offseason for me. Win the margins.
Win the margins. All right, man. Greg, thanks for jumping on with me last minute. There was just a lot that went down today. I wanted to get some your perspective on things. And, yeah, I like where it's going as far as the roster. You had to go and remind me that we still have Doc Rivers, but I do like where it's going as far as the roster. Thanks for everyone jumping in the chat tonight. Thanks for all the supporters of the channel at the top of the screen. C973J, thanks for being a member. Tyson Maddox, thanks for subscribing to the channel. On Demand Mobile Truck Repair, thank you for the super chat. Seth Rose still with the $20 super chat up there. Thank you for supporting the channel. You'll hear from me soon, and you'll hear from Greg soon. And go subscribe to Greg's YouTube channel, because I believe he started posting Sixers videos again. Am I correct?
Greg's back. Greg's optimism for YouTube has come back.
Greg's back, posting Sixers videos. Greg Melly on YouTube. Go subscribe. Yeah, man, until next time. Thanks, Greg.
Peace.
Later.